Ukraine invades Russia. What just happened in Belgorod? You guys always ask, Tommy, what's your opinion about what happened in Belgorod? TommyKay, my favorite political and geopolitical analyzer. Let's take a look.
Last week, the Washington Post published an article claiming that Zelensky and Ukraine's high command are considering escalating their attacks inside mainland Russia.
Makes sense to why the f wouldn't you? Like, this is a crazy all-out war. Russia is killing civilians. They're bombing playgrounds, deporting children, etc. Why the f would you play by the rules and not invade Russia, right? The only reason to not do it is to give kind of Russia a reason to nuke you, you know?
According to the article,
thank you all know, say my brother, man. Appreciate
Ukrainian
it.
High Command considered using long-range drones to attack troop deployments in southern Russia.
Should probably do that, yeah.
Up the Soviet-built Druzhba gas pipeline that runs from Russia to Hungary, and, perhaps most notably, invading the Russian city of Belgorod. This comes less than a week after Evgeny Prigozhin, the leader of the Wagner Group, publicly warned the Kremlin that Ukraine could attack Belgorod as part
Ooh, look at his satellite pictures. Probably every single day they get these pictures, I guess.
of their counteroffensive. And on the back of a series of
going into Russia will automatically boost Russian propaganda. Yeah, it's hard.
Drone strike against the
that was the most dumb false flag attack I've ever seen in my whole life, man. If you genuinely believe that Ukraine did that, there's no fucking hope for your brain, and you should just fucking put some straws up your nose, man, and sing Gangnam Style.
Kremlin earlier this month. While the report was quickly denied by the Ukrainian president, who insisted a day later that, quote, we have neither the time nor the strength to attack Russia. On Monday, it was reported that the Russian Volunteer Corps and the Freedom of Russia Legion, two pro-Ukrainian groups composed of anti-Putin Russians, had advanced into Belgorod Oblast, taking control of a couple of settlements near the Belgorod-Ukraine border. So in this video,
it's Russians out of Ukraine attacking Russians
in Belgorod, why Ukraine is invading Russia, and why this shouldn't come as that much of a surprise. Please consider subscribing and ringing the bell to stay in the loop.
Don't forget to subscribe, chat. Don't forget, Twitch Prime is for free. Did you know that?
Let's start by looking at what happened on Monday. On Monday morning, the Russian Volunteer Corps and the Freedom of Russia Legion attacked...
These guys look scary. They look like I don't want to fuck with them. I like how these two are like, please don't show our eyes, but these guys are like, fuck this, I show my eyes.
The Russian Volunteer Corps is a far-right Russian nationalist paramilitary unit with a slightly confused ideology. According to their founder, they don't like Zelensky because he's not an ethnic Russian, but they think Putin's worse because he's apparently turning Russia into a multicultural police state. The Freedom of Russia Legion, first formed in March...
What? Holy shit, they're like fascists? Nazi boys? But they hate Putin more than Ukraine. Okay.
2022 is a unit consisting of Russian defectors and other Russian volunteers who oppose Putin's regime for other more normal reasons. While both groups
other more normal reasons
with Ukraine and have fought alongside the Ukrainian army has said that both groups are independent. Their attack in Belgorod started by shelling the border post before advancing on it with a handful of armored vehicles. Then they advanced further into Belgorod, moving through the settlements of Gozinka, Glotovo, and Goropodol before encountering resistance at...
Dude, imagine you're an army group and your symbol is the bro fist of PewDiePie, man. Imagine that. People have very childish military symbols, man. Chat, if you would have your own military group, what would be your symbol? What will... just kidding. Yeah, that would be my symbol. What would be your symbol? Yeah, send it to me in Discord. Dude, still better than this shit. Still better than this fucking fist.
Ivaron, which lies about 8 kilometers...
Yes, Comic Sense. Imagine a soldier with Comic Sense on his patch is killing you, man. What a fucking shit death, bro.
From the Ukrainian border. While this has little strategic significance, it's deeply embarrassing for the Kremlin and sparked mass panic in Belgorod, with Russian citizens queuing to leave the city.
Oh, that's what it feels like, my Russian people. That's what it feels like. Oh!
Ukraine immediately denied responsibility for the attack, but the Freedom of Russia Legion claimed that they weren't fighting for Ukraine, but rather fighting for Russia to liberate these
Albania fella. Is that on Twitter?
Territories from the Putin regime. Nonetheless, while Kiev might have plausible deniability, it's hard to imagine that this goes ahead without their consent, and they at least knew about the attack in advance. The Ministry of Internal Affairs, for example, claimed that the groups were trying to create, quote, a security strip for the protection of Ukrainian civilians. And as the attack was ongoing, the head of Ukraine's intelligence services published a video...
Well, that is a head of intelligence services.
Urging
No
Russians
hate.
to surrender.
Does he have a picture of Zelensky there? I like it, I like it.
But only going to get worse. So you get the idea. While Ukraine clearly has plausible deniability, it's hard to imagine that they weren't involved in some way. And, well, this shouldn't come
I
as
don't
a
like this narrative like Ukraine might be the evil ones here. What the fuck are you gonna do? It's a war, you know?
surprise. Since as early as April last year, when 2 low-flying Ukrainian helicopters crossed into Russia and fired on an oil depot in Belgorod, the Ukrainians have been attacking targets inside Russia.
Yes,
In
they
August, mysterious explosions in Crimea's Saki airbase damaged 8 Russian planes.
And look at these satellite pictures. It's so easy nowadays to have information about stuff.
And Daria Dugina, the daughter of prominent Russian nationalist Alexander Dugin, was killed by a car bomb. While Ukraine never admitted to the latter, American officials later admitted that they believed Ukraine to be responsible, and that Dugin himself
This narrative is weird. Like, watching this video, you feel like, oh, is Ukraine actually doing bad stuff?
was the intended target.
You know?
Then, in October, the Crimean Bridge, which connects the peninsula to mainland Russia, was
America
damaged by a
snitching.
truck bomb, and drones attacked Russian ships docked at Sevastopol, forcing the Russians to blockade Sevastopol Bay. Then,
It's
in
not
December,
narrative, it's fact. I don't know what the
Ukrainians
narrative
carried out
is.
2 separate drone
I think you don't know what narrative is. Imagine you show this video right now to 1,000 idiots, right? They're gonna go to the pub. They're gonna meet John and Steve. And they're like, yeah, it's real now. I'm telling you, these Ukrainian cunts, they're escalating the whole war, man. How dare they? How dare they? That's what a narrative is. The video tells you a little bit, you know.
attacks at Engels Air Base,
Fucking John!
damaging 2 planes and killing 6 Russian servicemen. These attacks have become more frequent in the last couple of months. In February, Ukraine carried out its first coordinated drone attack against Russia, blowing up an oil depot and forcing St. Petersburg to impose a 200-kilometer no-fly zone around its airports. In March, there was an explosion at Taganrog Air Base, shellings in the towns of Zuravlovka and Nekhotevka, and reports that the Russian Volunteer Corps had attacked a couple of villages in the Klimovsky district. In April, an explosion at a cafe in St. Petersburg killed Russian war correspondent Vladimir Tatar.
Grisha went to that coffee before or after, I think. Russian pro-war military blogger killed in a blast at St. Petersburg coffee. Had 600,000 followers on Telegram.
In May, a freight train derailed after an explosive device detonated along the Bryansk-Uneka railway line, and an explosive-laden drone got within spitting distance of the Kremlin.
Yeah, but that is so. I mean, look at that little mini explosion. Do you think Ukraine is like, hey, let's fly this? We're gonna fly this into Putin's ass?
Which the Russians described as an assassination attempt against Putin. These attacks have become so frequent that, last Tuesday, Putin's press secretary, Dmitry Peskov,
That guy, that's Joseph Goebbels reborn, man. That guy is an evil
one
man.
of the main aims of the military operation, was now to stop the shelling of Russia. Now, while Ukraine
main
hasn't
aim is to stop
officially
us getting
admitted
shelled.
culpability for all of these attacks,
A
Ukrainian
year ago, they
officials
wanted to take
often
Ukraine to
allude
3
to it.
days.
Ukrainian presidential advisor Mikhailo Podolyak, for example, described the events as karma. And when asked about Ukraine's involvement on the attacks inside Russia, the head of Ukraine's intelligence agency simply responded by saying that all I will comment on is that we have killed Russians and will continue to kill Russians anywhere in the world until Ukraine's complete victory. So you get
Good
the
statement,
idea.
good statement.
Ukraine has been attacking targets inside Russia more and more frequently since the war began, which is why what happened in Belgorod shouldn't come as much of a surprise. This is one of the reasons that Zelensky has been so keen on long-range missile systems like the American-made ATA-CMS, because
that's
it
a
would
big
allow
fucking
Ukraine
missile. Look
to
at that,
strike
man.
targets deep inside Russia with missiles, and why the UK's decision to supply Ukraine with Storm Shadow cruise missile systems
Look at that fucking missile, bro. That looks so goddamn expensive.
is such a big win for Zelensky.
Damn.
Storm Shadows have a range of over 250 kilometers, more
Storm Shadow sounds like a 12-year-old League of Legends player.
than triple that of HIMARS, and will allow the Ukrainians to strike targets deep inside Russian territory. So why is Ukraine so focused on striking targets inside Russia?
Well, they have to
in
do
some
logistical damage. I mean,
cases,
what the hell are they
it
going to
makes
do?
Tactical sense. Attacking
It could
Belgorod
also end a lot of children at school.
could force Putin to redeploy some troops along the northern border, and blowing up ammo dumps, or the Crimean Bridge, for example, puts a strain on Russian logistics. However, the main reason is to put political pressure on Putin. Ukraine's commander-in-chief, Valery Zaluzhny, made this explicit in an interview with Yahoo News last year. when he argued
Yeah, who has a news channel? What the hell?
that because most Russians are insulated from the war and so consider it remote, there's no political pressure on the Kremlin to change course. In his interview, he argued that it was the task of the Ukrainian army in 2023 to make ordinary Russian citizens more aware of the war, so that it feels, quote, sharper, more natural, and quite tangible.
Makes sense.
Zaluzny's argument is basically that even if Russia isn't a democracy, Putin and the Kremlin are still...
I don't like the weird kind of kill all Russians rhetoric. Seems a bit extreme. They call it of clarified just combatants. I disagree. It's war. It's real life, man. And let's be real. Most Russians support or supported this war. And what do you think is going to happen, man? Your country is bombing civilians in Ukraine, so you're going to get also bombed. You can't walk around Nazi Germans. They're not that evil, right? You're supporting this shit. It's a fucking war. And let's be fucking real. If Russia will take over the world, they will all cheer in the streets, all these Russians. Yeah, we're the greatest country, man. But you don't expect something happens to you? That's how shit works. Most of them support this bullshit, play stupid games, win stupid prizes, man.
Clearly conscious of public opinion. After all, it's not like Putin is unpopular within Russia. And it doesn't look like he's going for a second wave of conscription, even though the Russian army is clearly struggling. Presumably because Putin and co are worried about how the public will react. This
shit,
is
man.
probably why
Dude, these policemen are better geared than their fucking soldiers, man. Like, no joke.
Putin hasn't responded to these attacks with some form of asymmetric escalation, like another wave of conscription or a tactical nuke. He doesn't want to admit to the Russian public that the SMO isn't going to plan. In this regard, it looks like the attack on Belgorod has been a great success for Ukraine. Even before the attack, we were already seeing angry videos from Belgorod residents demanding that the authorities...
Dude, look at these boomers, man. It's like fucking Vladimir, and he's like, hey, Igor, Dimitri, come to the wall where we always drink the vodka. I want you to look very evil. Maybe wear a hat, maybe sunglasses. We're gonna make a video to say we're very mad. What the fuck are these people?
Provide them with weapons to protect against the coming.
They sound like they're going to a football game and they're gonna hit me if I scream the wrong team.
Only be more pronounced today, especially because the region has apparently had to be evacuated. Ultimately, we live in an increasingly complex world where things are feeling less stable, especially economic.
Okay, now I know what happened in Bolgo Bongo Longo. What are you still doing here, mate? Jeez. Well, if you want to see more, click these videos. Have fun. Looking good, boy.